Welcome to Better Odds Sports Betting. Here's our hosts, Kiev O'Neill and Kyle Hunter.
What's happening, folks? Welcome back to Better Odds Sports Betting. Got my sidekick Kyle right here, and he got his Bengals orange going on. He did change this to orange this week, my friends. Just a fair warning here. And we have a very special guest, Mr. Will Hill from VSiN and the Gold Boys. Will, how the heck you doing? Thanks so much for coming on.
Man, where does the season go? We're down to 3 games left. It felt like, just a week or so ago, we're counting down to when the season starts. Only a month till it starts, and you look up and we're down to 3 games. It's it's an exciting weekend, but it's also kind of depressing. There's only a few games left.
Yeah, it's depressing. Normally I had my fill of football, but now I'm on a nice little streak, so I kind of want more. They know how it is. But no, it is a little surreal. Having football almost over, and we'll move on to basketball like we always do, but we always miss football come June, July. It really starts beating on us. So there you go. I got Arrowhead behind me here, a little Arrowhead Stadium. I think that's where a big game is. And Kyle, what do you think about this picture right here, man? Mahomes and Kelsey, right? Is this scaring you at all? Being a Bengals fan, is this scary? You want to go like that? No?
I'm not going to get triggered by anything you do here. Yeah, I'm going to stay cool, calm, and collected. I think it's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to breaking this game down with you guys. I did ask Kiev, though, hey, is that Arrowhead in your background? And he told me, well, we'll see. We'll see how the discussion's going to go about this one. Hey, I hope we can keep this Bengals orange all the way through the Super Bowl. And yes, I am guilty. I changed the colors, so Will, if you don't like the orange, that's my bad.
Hey, it's going to go all the way until the Super Bowl if that's what happens. So, that's the longest we're going to keep the orange. But it's not Halloween season, it's not fall, so we can't keep it too much longer, Kyle.
Truth.
Well, man, we have a lot to talk about, and bringing up our Betfred odds board. We'll get right into football here. You now have the Chiefs with the Mahomes news, a little bit past the 0 up to 1.5. As we know, this thing's kind of been bouncing around a little bit. Minus 110, the total is at 48. But let's talk about the Eagles. That's now minus 2.5, minus 115, and minus 120 in some of these books too. It looks like there hasn't been a lot of pushback, which I expected some this week, and I'm not seeing a lot. The total here, 46.5. Why don't we start with the Eagles game since it's the first game. Why don't Will do the honors, being he is, right smack dab in the NFC East?
Well, I think it's interesting you bring up location, because I think the fact of where these teams are located is playing into the line. Philly's an East Coast team. San Francisco's a West Coast team. Betting is primarily legal here on the East Coast. Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Delaware, right where the Eagles are. California, where the 49ers are, betting isn't legal. So maybe there's not that pushback on the 49ers, because at these legal books like DraftKings and all these books, it's just not the legal option for the 49ers. So I think, we've seen it get to 3 in some spots, but those 3s did not last. To me, these two teams are absolutely dead even. Flip a coin. You can't make home field worth 3, and 3 is a key number. So 2.5 is an obvious teaser leg for San Francisco. To me, somebody's going to win it 23-20. I do like the under. I actually bet it under 45.5. It went the other way. It went up to 46.5. I'm really surprised. Usually I'm pretty good forecasting where these line moves are going to go, and that's a big part of winning and beating the NFL is predicting the line moves. I was shocked it went up. To me, this is a game where both teams keep the ball on the ground. If there's anything you can do to poke Philly, it's hit them with the run game. We saw Washington do that on Monday night. Shanahan can be conservative in these big games. Remember, it was the NFC title game against Green Bay where it was just Garoppolo throwing 6 or 7 passes, Mostert right, Mostert left, Mostert up the middle. Even last week, that was a tight to the vest game. 4th and short, these teams would punt, they'll kick field goals. So I think this is 2017, 23-20. I think it's a great for a teaser for San Fran. I like the under. Who's going to win? Who knows, man? This is it's interesting. very rarely, and you talk about a team and you say, well, you guys didn't play anybody. It becomes their fans get defensive, things like that. Show me the impressive win between the 49ers and the Eagles. The Eagles really don't have one. What, the Vikings, the Giants, San Francisco, I guess Dallas last week is their most impressive win. Both these teams had sort of soft schedules. It's a fascinating matchup. Both these rosters are really good. So I am on the under here. Should be a great game.
Is the Cowboys both their most impressive win?
Well, the Cowboys didn't even have Dak when Philly beat them. So I don't know what Philly's best win is. That's
true. And then obviously they didn't have Hurts the next time, even though they were very much in that game until the last second. So that's a great point. They didn't have Dak back early in the season. And they kind of hung in a little bit. You saw Dallas was almost better sometimes without Dak when they played the Bengals. That was a massive favorite for the Bengals, and they won outright, I think. And that was early in the season before the Bengals started to gel. So, my thoughts are the same, really, Will. I think this is kind of a perfect line. You got, I can break this down like I did on the show, but the most important thing to say is these teams very equal. The one weakness the Niners has is a little bit against the pass. They allow like 7 yards per passing attempt, and the same thing for the Eagles. Weakness is defense against the run. But that's the big question is, was it really that bad? The Eagles defense did well against the Titans, yet look what the Niners have been doing. So here you have it. 2 teams very equal. Coaching advantage, Kyle Shanahan. Quarterback advantage, Jalen Hurts. I seriously have these guys very power rated, close, really on the button here. And that's why you see 2.5. I think at 3, I change my lean right to San Francisco for sure. At a flat 3, why not? But I think it's a perfect spread. And I've been saying that. Now, my perfect metric number in my algorithm came up to 46.5, but I bring it down to 45.5 myself based upon Purdy, the big stage. In bigger games, teams tend to freeze up. Defense tends to show up, and officials in general, not all of them, tend to not throw the flag. They don't want to blame for things, and there's more blame once that flag goes out, and you've seen that in big games. So my number is 45.5 for the total. So I do lean to the under for sure at the 46.5. One thing I will say, Will, is not too many games the public has a big influence. I think now that we're getting closer to the Super Bowl, maybe the public pushed that up a little bit, because I haven't heard a lot of sharp sides at all pushing this thing on the over. So my thoughts are perfect line. If you like a teaser and you have a partner with it, plus 2.5 works. Kyle, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I agree with Will. I would bet the under if I had to bet something in this game. Also, I'm going to point out the main official here is John Hussey. I was looking at his stats. 69 and 56 to the under, 55.2%. That's not bad. The home team, 69 and 55 in his games. I tend to think that the home and road splits are not terribly important because, your hope is that the official isn't really playing to the crowd. But I do think the over-under splits are pretty important. We know a guy like Jerome Boger, that's super important. Certainly, Hussey has been better for the under than the over. I think that both of these 2 teams are pretty good at not giving up big plays. So I think the drives will take some time. I think Will's completely right as far as the strength of schedule. I think these 2 have probably played the weakest schedules of anybody in the NFL. I mean, you could look at quite a few different strength of schedule ratings, and these 2 would definitely be at least in the bottom 5. So the question is, my biggest question is, what about Brock Purdy in a game like this? Because Purdy's played well. You have to give him credit for what he's done. He hasn't, last week he didn't look great, and that was the first really good defense he's played against. I think San Francisco will be relatively conservative in a game like this. It wouldn't stun me, like Will said, if you saw San Francisco run the football a lot here. I think under on pass attempts for Purdy is a good player prop bet here in a game like this, maybe also for yards as well. I don't think that there's great value on the side, kind of like you guys said. 2.5 is fair. You're getting a minus 120 some places on that 2.5. I wouldn't want to lay that just because I think there's enough unknown here. I can't blame Will for liking a teaser here. I don't know if I love a teaser leg with it. I don't know what to pair it with now that we're getting fewer and fewer options. But my favorite bet would be the under, thinking that both teams will play fairly conservatively. I think also it's fair to say we really haven't seen the Eagles in like catch-up mode at some point where Hurts has to throw it all the time. I don't know if this will be the game that they are either, but I think the Philly passing game, if you know they're going to throw the ball, I kind of wonder how that would work. And I don't think Hurts looked like he was completely healthy last week either. It didn't matter against the Giants. It may matter in a game like this. I think the side's perfect. I would bet the under if I had to bet this game.
Yeah, let me add one thing. I am betting props in this game, and the Niners' rush defense is so sick that I did take Miles Sanders under 51.5 rushing yards. If you look at the Eagles, they are spreading the ball out more, right? There's other running backs. I think Gainwell, Scott. There's other guys that are getting plenty of carries, and there's going to be different packages. If you look how to beat the Niners, it's definitely through the air. So I wouldn't even mind some sort of an over on that. Maybe you just take the Hurts over because I don't know if it's going to Goddard, Smith, A.J. Brown. He can spread it out and maybe even to the running backs too. So maybe his passing prop goes over. But what I will say is that I think Hurts is going to have to do this over the air. So in my opinion, the Sanders under prop is solid. The Niners has the number one rushing defense. They're just bad against the pass. On the other side of things, what is a young quarterback? Who's their best friend?
The tight end.
That's right. And that's why I'm going with Kittle. And I took Kittle over 46.5 receiving yards. I think that's easy. Not that the Eagles are terrible against tight ends. They're just average, a little bit above average when I look at some of the stats and the advanced metrics on how they guard tight ends. Kittle's going to get his. He could be the leading receiver because is Purdy going to be trusted to throw it down? I don't know. He didn't really trust Garoppolo in the Super Bowl, so I don't think he's going to be trusted. I think the big target is going to help. So I like Kittle over his receiving yards, and I like Miles Sanders under his rushing yards, you guys. Will, anything else to say in the game?
I did play Hurts under rushing yards. I think it was 48.5. Of course, shop around. These can vary by a yard or two. I'm seeing a 47.5. That yard or two can matter. So shop those around. I just think the athleticism, the speed of the 49ers linebackers, their DNs, I think it's going to be hard for Hurts to run. Who knows if he's 100% healthy? He looked good last week, but he didn't run a ton. If you look at the 49ers, they played Fields in week 1. I know it was a sloppy track, but Fields only had 25 rushing yards, 2.5 a carry. I just think with the athleticism of the linebackers and DNs for San Fran, it's going to be hard for Hurts to run in big chunks here. So Hurts under rushing yards for me.
Yeah, especially if he's hampered. So let's move on to the Bengals versus the Chiefs. Kyle's big game. And Kyle, you have the floor, my man. This is your team. I want you to start out and see if we line up.
All right. So, Kiev, I was saying last week when we had the Bengals +6 against the Bills, I actually even had somebody send me a message who watches our show here consistently, Kiev. And after the show, the guy sent me a message and says, "You sound like you like the Bengals quite a bit this weekend." So I kind of tipped my hand that the Bengals were a pretty good sized bet for me last weekend. I rarely like to bet on my teams.
You do, and I was surprised.
Yeah. It was just, I thought that was kind of a disrespectful line. The Bengals have been playing so well. The Bills hadn't done anything to justify that line. Now, you go into this week, you can't say the same about anything here because, if the Bengals are catching 6 points last week, then at one point here, they were favored by a couple points. Now it's, what's the Betfred live line here, Kiev? 1 or 1.5 on.
It's 1.5 total, 48.
Okay, yeah, 1.5 toward Kansas City. I think the Bengals +7.5 will be a popular teaser to pair with the 49ers. So I'll be curious your guys' input on that. I think my favorite bet in this game is the over. If you think that Mahomes is at least somewhat healthy, if Mahomes is at least somewhat healthy. These totals should be definitely higher than 48. So that's the question here is the problem. There's so much unknown in this game. And I will tell you, there's no way I'm going to bet as much on this game as I did last week, because do I really want to bet on how a high ankle sprain is healing? I might, but not for a lot of money. I think the over, both teams are explosive enough and can do enough. I also think first half over might be a decent look because Anarumo's been really good at defensive adjustments at halftime. So first half over, what is that, 23 and a half or 24 in that range, probably 23 and a half. So I kind of like the first half over. Now, as far as the side, I hate to disappoint you, but I don't know. I don't know what to bet with plus 1.5. So I'm hoping Kiev or Will give us something strong on this one. I think the Bengals are a really good team. I think if the Bengals win this game, they should be favored in the Super Bowl against two teams that haven't played as tough of a strength of schedule so far this year. But going to Arrowhead and winning, I've heard too much of this Burrowhead, and people are talking about the Bengals so much. It's almost like they've gone from disrespected last week to they don't have the chip on their shoulder, and we've got Eli Apple talking too much. I'm more worried about this game, certainly. I'm confident in Burrow playing very well. I think he's excellent. At the same time, I think this game goes down to the wire. And the people are saying, hey, Burrow's beaten Mahomes 3 times in a row. All those games have gone right to the wire. They could have gone either way. It's not like it's been domination. So my favorite bet in this one would be the over.
Okay, Will, it looks like he gave you your teaser leg plus 1.5 here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's pretty much all I have in the account is in terms of this game is the Bengals is the second half of a teaser. You could talk about the 1.5. Now they're favored. Now they're the underdog. It really only matters for teaser. The game, I guess it matters a little for the money line, but it's the postseason. It's not going to end in a tie. It's probably not going to land on 1. So it only matters for teasers. Look, I don't know how you sit here with a whole lot of confidence and say Mahomes is going to play great. Chiefs are going to win. Mahomes isn't going to play great. He's going to be hurt. Like, look, we can probably all agree he's not going to be 100%. But once you go from there, is he going to be 65%? Is he going to be 93%? Who the hell knows? I mean, it's really hard to tell. Like Kyle was saying, to sit here and diagnose. Look, we're sports bettors. We're not doctors to diagnose how he's going to heal, how bad he's hurt. He looked good jogging in practice. He looked good coming off the podium. I was skeptical, honestly, he was going to play well. When you heard Romo last week at the end of Bills Bengals talk about this injury, he said it's easy to play the day you get it, or easier, but as the days go on, it's harder, to get loose. It's harder to walk around, but he looked like he was, walking pretty well. I do think it'll hurt his ability to run. I don't know that any books are posting rushing props on Mahomes. If they did, I'd be very interested. I think it'll hurt his ability to get out of the pocket. It might hurt his accuracy on deep balls. So I think we'll see Andy Reid go with a quick game, get the ball out of his hands, maybe Kelsey underneath. He's not going to be as effective because a lot of Mahomes is he gets out of the pocket and he creates time, extends the play and throws the ball deep. That element of his game is not going to be there. It'll be interesting because, since he has had success against Mahomes, especially second half of the AFC title game last year, rushing 3, dropping 8, making, them go the length of the field. You wonder now with him banged up, do they bring a little more pressure? Do they try to hit him more? Do you force the issue? That's an interesting cat and mouse game. Ultimately, though, it's a guessing game. And look, I don't like to guess. I like to bet. And I hate to do this because, it's bad content. It's a cop-out to come on these shows and talk about live betting. But this might be a scenario where, hey, watch a handful of plays, watch 5 plays, watch a series. Mahomes looks great. Maybe you bet on Kansas City. Mahomes is hobbling around. You bet the under. You bet the Chiefs team total under. You bet the Bengals. This is probably one where, if you're going to make a big bet, maybe wait for live betting. But I do think the Bengals on the teaser is a good look.
They sure dished out a teaser this week, didn't they? Another one, and the America's teaser hit last week. Yes. So I found that pretty fascinating. The first bet I made Sunday night was the over 47. I was actually shocked to see it go down to 46. I mean, Mahomes finished the game. It's not like I expected him to play this whole time. Now you see it shooting up again. But I also have a little conspiracy theory that the reason Mahomes is not on the injury report is because of the massive media distraction. It's just like, look, he's hobbled. Take him off the injury report. So that's why I believe you don't see a questionable or probable status, because there's no question he's going to play. But maybe he is so taped up that it's like walking in a cast. I don't know. Right. And that's what makes this game have so much variance in it. And this is why the prop market is really tough for me, because I don't know what to expect via props. I think a hobbled Mahomes is still better than 75% of the quarterbacks out there, but I also don't, really know what you're going to get if he has to roll out, because he's such a great and special quarterback. For after 2.5 seconds, he shoots out of the pocket to the right. That's where he makes most of his plays, giving his receivers extra time. And then if they don't drop off the tight end and start charging at Mahomes because they're not worried about the run, that's a new story. Live betting situation isn't terrible either, just to kind of see how Mahomes is in the pocket a little bit to figure that out. But as far as like pre-flop prop bets, it's kind of tough. But I did, Kyle, make a flop bet, and I did play the Bengals. And I played the Bengals for good reason. Well, first of all, it's almost like it pairs with the over. It could really happen where the Bengals win in another shootout game and you hit the over. But I think the only reason this would go under is if the Bengals blow them out. So it's almost like a protect bet. They protect each other. If the Bengals are going to win this game, it could go under, it could go over. But if the Chiefs win this game, it's going over. Burrow's getting over 23, 24 points. I have no problem with that. You can hit that with 27 to 24, it goes to 51, 30 to 23, something like that. There's lots of different ways. But here's the weird thing. People know Mahomes is playing. This line didn't go to 3. That's the market telling you this Bengals team might be better. If you look at EPA, the last 9 weeks of the season, the Bengals are number 4 in offensive EPA. The Chiefs are number 1, but the Bengals are number 6 in defensive EPA. The Chiefs are number 10. So it's like equal almost. They're like 4 away from each other. Yet the Bengals had the harder strength of schedule. Before the season, guys like me, guys like Will, we were saying, look at this AFC West juggernaut this year. Right? Wrong. The Chargers were the Chargers. The Raiders were terrible. And do we even have to mention the Denver Broncos? This was a very, very easy division. Completely wrong from what people were thinking coming into this. So, in my opinion, I see value on Burrow and the Bengals because they're equal the last 9 weeks. You have the healthier quarterback. You have a coach that knows how to win. My only worry, and I question what Spagnuolo is going to do, the defense coordinator for the Chiefs, because the truth is that Burrow does struggle against man coverage a little bit. And I know that Spagnuolo plays a lot of man coverage and is successful. I wonder if that's going to force Burrow to have to stay in the pocket without a snowy ground. That's my concern, I guess, a little bit. Maybe he has to hold the ball a little bit longer. I don't know if that's going to happen. With zone, he just picked it apart last week. Just quick passes, 1 step, 2, 3 step drops, right? It was simple. But with man, that could hurt him a little bit. So I'm curious to see what Spagnuolo is going to do from a defensive perspective. But hey, he's tried 3 times before. All these games were in 2022, and the Bengals still won. I still think the Bengals think they got screwed over by the NFL. I think the Bengals know if they beat the Bills, they would have had the home field advantage, and they're riding that anger. I like the Bengals to win this game. I think it goes over, and I'm taking +1.5. Anything else on this one?
I would add that it probably got over discussed last week, the Bengals offensive line issues. I think it might be a little under discussed last week. I think playing in the snow helped them. We've heard Brady talk about in the past. He likes playing in the snow because it's hard for the pass rush to get traction and get going. So I think maybe the snow helped the Bengals offensive line last week, and we really haven't heard about the Bengals offensive line this week. I don't know that that's an issue that is just magically going to go away. So that'd be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I would echo those sentiments. I think too much was made of it last week, probably not enough this week. And Jackson Carman filled in pretty well for Jonah Williams, but I think Alex Kappa is the huge loss on the Bengals offensive line. He was their best lineman for much of the season. So I hope they can hold up there. One other thing is, if I were betting props in this game, I think I would take Joe Burrow rushing yards over 17.5. Burrow can move pretty well. And when you get into bigger games, he's shown to be more willing to run the football. So I think him rushing for 1 or 2 big plays here would not surprise me at all.
It's interesting you said that. I was looking at Mixon's rushing plus receiving yards. It's pretty high, though, at 84.5. The first time they played, he got over 100. I think the second time he was in the 80s. He missed the one earlier than the season when P. Ryan played. He was hurt. But, I think that if to beat man, you might have to throw it to your running back a little bit, like especially if you don't want to give the offensive line a ton of time. So there could be some good dump offs to Mixon where he could, possibly get over that rushing or receiving total, maybe even just a receiving yards total. So I'm still thinking about that, but I'm going to shop around and see what else is out there. Let's move on to some college basketball then, my friends. We can't forget about college basketball. Guess why? There's no football on Saturday no more. This is it. We have to watch college basketball. Here we are. I'm real excited for it because we have that little strange SEC Big 12 challenge that's right in the heart of conference season. I always found that fascinating. But there's an angle that I like to use in this, and I'm going to go over a game that has this angle. My angle is when a team's kind of competing for their, Big 12 or Big SEC conference championship regular season. This is a distraction for them. Why would they want to play anybody out of conference? Their mindset's wrong. But if it's a team that's looking to make the big dance and needs a big win, then it's a great opportunity. I'm going to take a look at a game in this slate, and we're going to go with Auburn versus West Virginia. Now, Auburn's ranked 22nd on Haslametrics right here. They're very high on KenPom. They're 6-4. But the problem with Auburn is they haven't played anybody yet. Auburn has had a bad schedule. And if you want to look at the schedule here, they still haven't played the Tennessees. They haven't played the Alabamas, and they haven't played the Kentucky. So when they did get challenged a little bit, when they played, Georgia beat them when they went away. USC beat them. USC is not the greatest team, as you can see, but they still haven't gotten the heart of their schedule. We kind of found out that Arkansas is hurting a little bit too. So Auburn is a time to fade, in my opinion. And I really wish I would have done it on Wednesday, but the fact that they only have 2 losses makes this game a much of a bigger distraction here, while you have West Virginia at 12-8, sitting maybe on the bubble, probably even out right now. They have no big non-conference wins, as you can see. They need this game a lot more than Auburn does at this time. They're probably going to be 3.5 to 4 point favorites. I don't know what the public's going to do. The public would usually go towards the Auburn with Bruce Pearl there, but I really think Auburn's flawed because they can't shoot the 3 well. They're only okay from 2. They're terrible from the free throw line. They have a defense, but their strength of schedule has been very weak. This is a spot play where I think West Virginia runs away with this, and I don't think that Auburn is going to be all that into this game. So Auburn's ripe for the fading. West Virginia needs this. We're going to go with West Virginia. I'm going to lay all the way up to 5 points on this one, guys. Let's move on to Kyle.
My thought on this one is Auburn is a tricky team to bet, in my opinion. Janai Broome has really helped them defensively. Offensively, they have issues. 233rd in the nation in effective field goal percentage offense. But what do they do coming off a really bad loss to Texas A&M? Kiev, I think I got to pass on this game. This is one of those where I see a lot of different ways this could go. West Virginia is a tough place to play, so it won't surprise me if West Virginia wins and covers. But, you've seen Auburn go on the road. They won at LSU. That's not really saying very much at this point. They won at Washington by 23 points. None of these are terribly impressive, obviously. They have a couple good neutral site wins. How about the neutral site win over Northwestern, 43-42? What a game that was. I think I'd probably bet the under if I were betting this game. The problem is, I will say the Big 12 SEC games have usually gone over more than they've gone under. The late season non-conference games usually play to the over. I was looking this one up in Bet Labs here. It's 53.5% to the over. So I'm not saying this is some strong angle, but a lean to the over and things like this usually. And this one, I just question the Auburn offense. West Virginia, I don't think is as talented as Auburn, but West Virginia's a well-coached team that's going to play hard every single play. So I'm going to pass on this one, Kiev.
No, fair enough. Do you have any thoughts, or why don't you give us your game you want to talk about?
Yeah, you texted me before the show and you said pick one college basketball game. And before I replied, you told me you were picking West Virginia, Auburn, and that would have been my pick. I love West Virginia here. I think the Big 12 is so much better, so much deeper, which plays into my pick coming up. I think West Virginia is better coached. I don't like Auburn's guards. They take bad shots. They turn the ball over. I've watched them play. I haven't been impressed, so I'm all about West Virginia in that one. And I'm going to go with Texas Tech. They are at LSU. Should be around to pick them. These lines, not all of them are up yet as we record this. But to me, again, if you just blindly bet the Big 12 against the SEC, I think you'll do okay tomorrow just because I think the Big 12, you get some value there because they just beat each other up. You just look at the overall record and you think, oh, this team's not maybe as good. Texas Tech has a lot of talent. They haven't played well. They've lost some tough games, but LSU's a dreadful team. I'm getting the much better Texas Tech team, in my opinion. So I will take the Red Raiders here to get off the schneid and win one.
What's really funny is you look at LSU's record right here, and then you look at Texas Tech. It's almost the same exact thing that you got. Something's got to give in this one, right, baby. I expected a lot more out of Daniel Bacho, the 6'11" center over there. And he's still one of the good players, but the rest of the team just didn't turn out. I think it's just a matter of time here for Texas Tech to finally get that big win. LSU is probably in quit mode by now. I almost think wow, you lose to Arkansas by 20 points and the game goes to 100. This was a Kyle Hunter under special on this one. Tennessee comes, you have a chance to make a statement. You lose by 21 points. You can't even get to 57 points. This is a terrible LSU team. Obviously, when their coach left last year and Will Wade, that was a big thing. But we know Will was doing a few things under the table that were definitely frowned upon. So one of those situations where, it's Texas Tech or nothing for me. So you have some agreement. Kyle, anything on that?
Yeah, I would bet Texas Tech here. I know Ken Palm has Texas Tech by 1. I'm kind of afraid they're going to be favored by more than that based on how bad LSU has been here lately. So I guess, Will, do you like this even if it's like -2 or something like that?
2 wouldn't scare me because, in terms of betting, I could just play the money line. So 2 is okay. I guess once it got to 3.5, I'd really sort of hesitate. Do I want to lay the 3? Probably not. I don't like laying points on the road just in general. But, at 1, 2, as long as it's like -135, -140 on the money line, probably be my cutoff price right around there.
Okay, that's fair. And I think as you look at Texas Tech, they've lost, 7 in a row, 8 in a row?
They're due.
So, yeah, they're the due theory. The thing is, if you look at everybody that they've lost to, they're far better than LSU. They're way better than LSU. And like Kiev said, LSU has really not even shown signs that they're even still putting in the effort. I hate to say a college team has quit, but you see the kind of efforts they've given here lately, losing by 21 points at home, losing by 18 at home to Auburn, and then losing 60-40 against an Arkansas team that I think might be a bit overrated. So yeah, I agree on Texas Tech here.
And they're probably not much of a home court either. They're probably sitting there waiting for opening weekend of football next Labor Day, seeing, checking the recruiting rankings, things like that. So not much of a home court for LSU either.
Very true. Kyle, what about you? You're going to bring us maybe something like from the CAA or something? Colonial?
No, I'm actually going to go with what most people would say is the biggest game of the day, Kansas at Kentucky.
You feeling okay?
Usually I do bring some random under the radar. We're going to talk about Merrimack or some team like that. But I'm going to go with Kansas and Kentucky. Guys, I see Ken Palm has Kentucky -1. I can't imagine Kentucky will be favored in this game. I was looking at some of the others. I see Kentucky, a dog by maybe 1.5 or 2 is probably more likely than them being favored by 1. I like Kansas in this game. I think Kansas losing 3 straight kind of gives us some value here. Kansas is the much more complete team, in my opinion. Kentucky has played better of late, but other than that win against Tennessee, they haven't really played great competition here lately. And I think Kansas, what a way to break your losing streak of 3. You don't lose 3 in a row under Bill Self very much. And I think they got to be really up for playing a game at Rupp Arena. To me, this is a Kansas team that still has very real possibilities of cutting down the nets again this year. Kentucky, I don't think, is on that same level. So I'm going to try to buy low on Kansas in a spot here where I think they should be very amped up.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually was going to do this game and ran out of time earlier this week. Kansas is in the spot where now they have to take this game seriously, losing 3 in a row. And they lost to Kansas State and Manhattan. No worries about that. That's tough. TCU, they came out of nowhere. And then Baylor's Baylor, and that was an away. 2 of those were away. Kentucky here, some of their victories, and this might help the line. This was fraudulent, this victory against Vanderbilt, because when Vanderbilt played, Liam Robbins didn't play this game. Liam Robbins was hurt. That's by far best big guy down there. If you're going to have a shot at guarding anybody from Kentucky to Sheboy for one, Toppin, you need a big man, and he was out. So this is a little bit fraudulent. Texas A&M had a bad game. Georgia, Tennessee was the big win in my opinion, and I give them credit for that. But there's also a spot where those do or die for them. Now this is kind of a spot that has become a little bit more of a distraction, and it's really this: who are you going to take, Self or Calipari? This shouldn't be really much of an argument. John Calipari has kind of turned into like the Juwan Howard of basketball. Great recruiting, terrible coach. And if you saw that game against Purdue last night, you can see just how poor they're letting Purdue with shoot 3-pointers all over the place just by moving the ball. It blows my mind how bad these coaches can be. But Calipari, great recruiter, and that's why he's always been competitive. But just like in the tournament last year when they lost to St. Peter's, you couldn't just get the job done at all. And Kansas is a much more talented team, in my opinion, right now, with guys like Jalen Wilson, McCullough. They got a couple guys injured, but maybe 1 or 2 of those guys come back. DeJuan Harris. Yeah, I like Kansas as well. Will, any thoughts?
No, that's a pass for me. But, if you look at Kansas, maybe a revenge spot for them, because remember, Kentucky went to Kansas last year, right around the same time last year, and Kentucky waxed them in Lawrence. So maybe a little revenge here for Kansas.
Yeah, that's a great point. So way to bring that up. I appreciate that. Yeah, revenge spot for Kansas. I'm sure they didn't forget about that. Although, man, sometimes winning the national championship might make me forget a little bit, but still, this is just add a little fuel to the fire here. Now let's get into our most likely dog to win outright. And I have to remind everybody that the last time Will was on this show, both of our big dogs won outright. I think he was on Jacksonville. I couldn't remember who I was on, but it was the big FCS bowl game,
the Deion Sanders game.
Yeah, I faded Jackson. I think it's NC Central, and that was plus like 500. We suggested parlaying them together, and that thing paid 15-1, and I did. So that was awesome. So very hot for Will and I. And Kyle last week taking the Bengals, obviously easy plus 200 win right there. So most likely dog to win outright. I'll start. I'm going to go with Mississippi State. And this Mississippi State's a little bit better of a team, but it feeds into my whole philosophy here on who they're playing and when they're playing. They're playing TCU. Now, TCU has blown people away. They're on an amazing streak. They're going to be probably 5 or 6 point favorites. They're still not getting a lot of respect. Well, as much respect, at least on Haslametrics. But this Mississippi State team is starting to creep up a little bit. They hit their bottom. And the thing about TCU is they're used to Big 12 play, fast pace. Some teams play defense, but not a lot. But Mississippi State is that drain your clock, frustrate you type game. When TCU has played other teams like Mississippi State, they've lost. They lost against Baylor this year. They lost against Texas. And, they lost against Kansas. Now, those are 3 really good teams. But their strength of schedule, if you look here on Haslametrics, all these teams are in the 200s. I guess the Iowa win you'll give them. And Iowa wasn't ready with Chris Murray being young back then. You give them a little respect for that. But their strength of schedule wasn't exactly blowing me away. For a spot where I think it could win outright, or maybe they get blown out, I like the value with Mississippi State. You're going to get probably plus 200, plus 220 in this game. It's just one of those, it's more of a distraction for TCU, getting out of Big 12 play when Mississippi State greatly needs this win after all their losses this year, especially in conference play. So I'm taking Mississippi State to win outright.
Understandable there, Kiev. I'll go next. I'm going to take Texas over Tennessee. This is going to be a really big underdog, so I'm going to go big or go home here in this one. Tennessee becomes a fade later in the season. We'll see if I'm too early to fade Rick Barnes' team. I do think that still the people that talk about Tennessee as a legitimate national title contender, it's not going to happen. Tennessee is always fading away at the end of the season. This is a good Tennessee defense, but you have to score better than they do when you get into these big games. Texas, this is a great chance for them. Texas has had a rough season for many reasons, which, we won't get into everything there, but Texas has played pretty well here lately. They won at West Virginia. They blew out Oklahoma State. I think this would be a great signature win for Texas to kind of make their mark. So kind of like Kiev was talking about, this is a big opportunity for a Texas team. I think this game means even more to them than it does to Tennessee. So I like the value taking a shot here on Texas.
No disagreement, and they have Florida on deck, their big rival here. So that's a little bit of a look ahead and a distraction, a little bit more for them. So interesting spot right there. Will, what do you got for us?
What's the question again? Biggest underdog? Like, what are we going?
Most
for?
likely underdog to win outright.
Okay.
Usually 3.5 points or better, but
that's why. I mean, some of these lines are starting to pop up. I was going to say Missouri, but they're only getting 1.5. I do like them tomorrow against
I like them
Iowa
this week
State. Let me see here. What do we have for Hofstra Charleston? Do we have a line on that yet? I'll go Hofstra. Charleston's been great in
that's a big game right there.
Yeah, I'll go Hofstra.
I think this line is going to be 5 or 6. Does that make sense, Kyle?
Yeah, I think 5.5 or 6 is probably most likely. So this would be, what's 5.5 or 6 on the money line? Usually?
I think you're going to be like at plus 220, I think.
Yeah, 210, 220, something like that. So yeah, I like that as well. Hofstra is a good team that's been well coached for many years now. They've been playing pretty good basketball here of late. Charleston has had several close calls, so I think that's a good look.
Yeah, Charleston's been a very fortunate team. They have that one loss against North Carolina, but I like the Kent State win for them, but that was a very close, lucky game. The Virginia Tech one, another close, lucky game, and then everybody else is not even in the top 138. That's the next one. Towson 138 after that since November 29th. So they haven't exactly had a tough strength of schedule here. Hofstra is kind of shocked people. I tried to fade them a little bit last night against Elon. I just wasn't buying where they were ranked, but hey, they're doing pretty good, and obviously a great start for them in the Colonial. So I love the pick, man. Very creative, Will. Awesome stuff.
Elon will not be in my bracket come March. Elon is, for people who haven't watched, Elon is just dreadful. I think they're 2-19, 2-20. That is a horrendous basketball team.
A lot of people are trying to get him on the look ahead here, and that just didn't work out. But yeah, it was maybe Hofstra is a little bit more real than people think. So
let me throw in something on Elon here really quick. I remember at the beginning of the year, Kiev, you and I always do this, and I'm sure Will does the same thing. I always try to look through like new coaches that have different quotes of like how they're going to play and stuff. Elon's new coach said, "We're going to play really fast. I want us to be a really good offensive team. I want to have 50 by halftime." It's like they're struggling to get to 50 for the full game in a lot of these.
They're giving the other team 50 by halftime.
Yeah, maybe he meant 50 for the other team by halftime.
That's so funny. Yeah, you look at all these coaches. It doesn't even matter what sport they get hired, and the quotes are always the same. We're going to play fast and we're going to be aggressive. Yeah. Nobody says, "Hey, we're going to be really conservative. We're not going to play fast at all. We're going to be boring." Right.
This isn't Elon Musk here. The stock is falling on this team, my friends. Elon, North Carolina, the Elon Phoenix. Hopefully we don't have to talk about them again for the rest of the season, guys. Had a blast. Check us out at theoddsbreakers.com. If you need any of our picks, we have them there. We have free picks if you want to support us and all of our costs. We also have membership packages. We're giving away a free shirt now, a free polo shirt. You can look like a degenerate everywhere you go, church, dinner, Valentine's Day, golfing, whatever you want. You can get an Oddsbreaker shirt if you become a member, running this promotion all the way through March Madness. Will, where could our listeners get your great media and info?
Yeah, I'm on VSiN 4 or 5 times a week, and then I work for Go Boys Discord, so goboys.com, or and we also have Twitch shows throughout the week. I tweet those out, twitch.tv/GoBoys Network. So Go Boys Discord, twitch.tv/GoBoys Network. Appreciate it, guys. This was a lot of fun.
Good stuff, Kyle.
Yeah, Will, thanks for coming on with us.
Sure.
Always fun when you're on here. HunterSportsPicks.com, my website. You can check out my work there at Kyle Hunter Picks on Twitter. You can sign up for my free picks newsletter there from HunterSportsPicks.com. And bummed that football's ending, but college basketball is going to ramp up, and that tells us that March Madness isn't too far away. So we still have plenty of good sports action coming.
Yeah, there is plenty of action. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Best of luck this weekend. Go get some winners.
Thank you for watching Better Odds Sports Betting.